The unbreakable spirit of Sarah Kane. The rolling hills of Willow Creek, Montana, stretched endlessly under a sky painted with hues of gold and crimson. The Kane family farm, nestled between fields of wheat and a winding river, was a place where time seemed to slow. Sarah and Emily Kane, identical twins, grew up here, their laughter echoing through the barns and their boots kicking up dust along the dirt paths. To the townsfolk, they were the Kane girls, two peas in a pod, inseparable, with matching hazel eyes and chestnut hair that caught the sunlight just right. But beneath their mirrored appearances, Sarah and Emily were as different as fire and water. Emily was the heart of the farm, her hands calloused from tending crops and her smile warm enough to melt the coldest winter. She was the one who stayed, who poured her soul into the land their parents had left them. Sarah, on the other hand, was a restless spirit. At 18, she traded her pitchfork for a rucksack and enlisted in the army, chasing a calling she couldn't name. The townsfolk whispered about her departure, some with pride, others with skepticism. "That Kane girl's gonna get herself killed," they'd say. But Sarah wasn't running from Willow Creek, she was running towards something bigger. Years passed, and Sarah's name became a quiet legend in Willow Creek. Letters arrived sporadically, postmarked from places like Fort Bragg or classified locations. Emily would read them aloud to the farmhands, her voice swelling with pride. Sarah had climbed the ranks, earning a spot in the elite Delta Force, a shadowy unit known for its grueling training in covert missions. The townsfolk couldn't fathom it. The lanky girl who once raced tractors was now a warrior, trained to vanish into the night and emerge victorious against impossible odds. Emily, meanwhile, became the heartbeat of Willow Creek. She ran the farm with a quiet strength, her gentle demeanor masking a fierce resolve. But the town wasn't without its shadows. A group of local troublemakers, led by a burly man named Travis Holt, had taken to harassing small farmers. Travis, a former high school football star turned petty thug, saw the Kane farm as an easy target. With Sarah gone and Emily alone, he figured he could intimidate her into selling the land cheap. The farm sat on prime real estate, and Travis's uncle, a shady developer, had big plans for condos and strip malls. It started small: broken fences, stolen tools, spray-painted threats on the barn. Emily reported each incident to Sheriff Dawson, but the old lawman was too cozy with Travis's uncle to act. The townsfolk, though sympathetic, kept their distance, afraid of crossing Travis's crew. Emily held her ground, her jaw set like steel. She wasn't just protecting the farm, she was guarding her parents' legacy, Sarah's childhood, and her own stubborn pride. One crisp autumn evening, Travis and his crew, 4 men with more bravado than brains, showed up at the Kane farm. Emily was in. The Montana sky burned with the colors of dawn, a canvas of orange and pink stretching over the Kane family farm in Willow Creek. Emily Kane stood on the porch, her breath visible in the crisp morning air, a mug of coffee warming her hands. The farm had flourished since the incident with Travis Holt nearly a year ago. The fields were lush, the orchard heavy with apples, and the community market Emily had started drew folks from neighboring towns. But despite the peace, Emily's heart carried a quiet ache. Her twin sister, Sarah, hadn't returned since that fleeting week, her letters arriving less frequently, each one shorter than the last. Sarah Kane, the farm girl turned Delta Force legend, was a ghost in Willow Creek. The townsfolk still told stories of how she'd sent Travis and his crew running, her lethal grace turning a barn into a battlefield. But for Emily, those stories were bittersweet. She missed the sister who'd once raced her through the wheat fields, not the warrior who carried the weight of wars Emily couldn't imagine. The woven bracelet Emily had given Sarah was her only tether to her sister, a fragile thread stretched across continents. Unbeknownst to Emily, Sarah was closer than she thought. In a military base halfway across the world, Sarah sat in a dimly lit briefing room, her gear packed, her mind heavy. Her latest mission had been a success, disarming a terrorist cell in a desert stronghold, but it had cost her. A teammate, Specialist Ramirez, hadn't made it out. His loss lingered in Sarah's eyes, a new scar on a soul already marked by years of covert ops. Her commanding officer, Colonel Hayes, had noticed the change. "Take leave, Kane," he'd said, his voice gruff but kind. "You're no good to us, burned out." Sarah hadn't argued. She'd booked a flight to Montana, telling no one, not even Emily. She needed the farm, the quiet, the sister who reminded her of who she'd been before the world demanded she become something harder. Willow Creek had changed in subtle ways. The town was thriving, thanks to Emily's market and the community's renewed spirit. But new shadows had crept in. A corporation, Horizon Ventures, had set its sights on the region, buying up small farms with promises of wealth and progress. Most farmers resisted, but Horizon's tactics were slicker than Travis Holt's thuggery. They sent polished representatives with briefcases and contracts, offering sums that made struggling families waver. Rumors swirled that Horizon wasn't above intimidation, hiring local muscle to persuade holdouts. Emily, now a respected figure in Willow Creek, had become a vocal opponent of Horizon. She'd organized town meetings, rallying farmers to protect their land. Her defiance hadn't gone unnoticed. Late-night phone calls with no one on the line, tire tracks near the farm's perimeter, and a sense of being watched had Emily on edge. She hadn't told Sarah, not wanting to pull her back into danger. But Sarah's instincts, honed by years in Delta,